From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson, joined by an old friend of mine on the phone.
Yes, the hardest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV, partying with every girl that he sees. Yours truly, me, Hector Bosa. Let me tell you something, Jamie. Gotta tell you. Do you think that Nick Bosa could be one of my relatives? If he is, so help me, I'm going to call him uncle or cousin. But do you think he's had a lot of injuries that you would take a chance on him?
Before we answer that question, I think we may want to raise his volume inside the studio because I cannot hear him at all inside the studio.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And also, let me let you know that Kenny Graham's on the other side of the glass, and you can, as always, check out past shows of ours on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook.
You remembered his name.
Mm-hmm. I always remembered his name. What are you talking about?
Last time you didn't. You fumbled
No,
it
I
up
remembered
earlier.
his name. I just had...
Even Kenny was laughing, going, oh, my God.
I remembered his name. I just stuttered for like a small second.
It's okay. But...
As far as Nick Bosa is concerned...
Bosa, yes. B-O-S-A, yes. Just like my last name.
Mm-hmm. Nick may be the first overall pick in the draft. As far as any injuries goes... I think he might have had some problems with his legs in the past. Hopefully, he won't have that problem in the big time right now.
And what
At
do you
this
think
point,
about
he might be drafted either by Arizona or by, I think, San Francisco. And there's an outside shot that he'll fall down to number 3, although I really don't see it happening. I think he might be picked first overall by Arizona.
And where is the Jets in all this and the Giants?
The Jets are picking third. The
draft?
Giants are picking, I think, 6th.
And the Jets are picking third.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think they're picking? Since they already got their quarterback, and they pretty much lined up everybody so far. Who's in third right now?
I keep hearing Josh Allen from Kentucky, who's an edge rusher, and he is definitely somebody that the Jets are in need of going forward with this new regime. They need defenders in the worst way, and I think Josh Allen would be the right guy for the Jets.
And speaking of the Jets as well, what do you think of the new coaching staff? I mean, they're young, loud, and potentially volatile. Are they volatile too?
Adam Gase, I know for a fact, has a reputation for being pretty volatile on the sidelines. As far as the other guys, I'm not necessarily too familiar with them to know exactly what makes them tick, but Adam Gase, I know he can have his moments where he can be a bit of a pain in the neck with his players. As a matter of fact, there was supposedly there was a mutiny among Dolphins players.
Did you know that they were offered hard knocks and they're passing it up?
Yeah, the Jets were actually offered a chance to appear on Hard Knocks for the upcoming summer, and they turned it down. They didn't want the distraction of it.
And also, for those people that believe in jinxes, but every team that's done that so far hasn't come out to be the best team in the world.
Yeah.
If you noticed that.
And the Jets did Hard Knocks before, I think 7 or 8 years ago. Things did not go as planned for them.
So, do you think it's superstition? Do you think it's, okay, we're just trying to gather the pieces together?
I think it's strictly a coincidence that things go south for a particular team every time they appear on the show. So I really wouldn't read too much into it. It's just a matter of keeping the guys prepared for the upcoming season.
You got for just complete their coaching staff last night includes Adam Casey. Adam Case.
Well, Adam Gase is the head coach, keep in mind.
Yes, and Joe Vitti.
Well, I'd have to see the article just to find out exactly who these guys are, so I really can't comment on it.
He's the linebacker coach. He was a consultant for the Miami Dolphins in 2017.
Which meant Gase probably brought one of his guys over to the north so they could complete things as planned.
You know, and we've talked about the Jets before, and their lack of things.
Oh, brother, lack of.
And their strengths and their weaknesses. I know they have more weaknesses than strengths.
Oh,
right
they got
now.
A lot more weaknesses than strengths.
But you're picking third. Do you really go for a running back or a wide receiver? Who do you go for as the third pick? Or do you trade down and try to get more picks?
At this rate, the Jets really do need a defensive player, especially on the line, a pass rusher, an edge rusher, who could really try and disrupt an opposing offense's fluidity so they can try and bring some momentum over to their own offensive end. At this rate, I would get a defensive guy. I heard Josh Allen from Kentucky. Maybe he would be the way to go. As far as running backs are concerned, I just don't see any running backs out there that would be worthy of being drafted so high. It wouldn't surprise me if the Jets decided to trade down to get a running back, but at this rate, the best thing for the Jets to do is get a defensive guy. If they really wanted a running back, they'd go after Le'Veon Bell, although they're not going to be interested in overpaying for the guy because he's going to want a lot of money.
And that's the thing. Do you get what you pay for? Especially with have the Jets been successful in paying what they pay for?
In the past, yeah, they have. It's interesting when it comes to the Jets and their history. The most productive position for them, actually, two of their most productive positions have been running back and surprisingly center. When you think about it, the guy that they had for their Super Bowl, for their only Super Bowl, he lasted a decade. Then after that, there was Joe Fields. He lasted about between 5 and 10 years. Then there was Jim Sweeney, who had a good 13-year run for the Jets. Then after that, there was Kevin Mawai, who wound up being picked for induction into the Hall of Fame this summer. And then after that, most recently, there was Nick Mangold. So those are a good 5 or 6 players that the Jets have had at center. As far as running back, the Jets have had Emerson Boozer and Freeman McNeil, and also Curtis Martin, who's now in the Hall of Fame,
and Johnny Lamb Jones.
Oh, please, Johnny Lamb Jones! What a freaking bust he was!
Oh, he was good for what it was worth.
No, he was not. No, he was not. Barely, he didn't even make it to 100 catches for his career, and he lasted only 5 years. That's
only 5 years? That's good.
Only 5 years, which is right on average for any NFL player.
And switching to the Giants for a moment, you know, you have Pat Schumer filling out the vacancies, Mike Dawson, and Henry Baker as a defensive back for coach. What do you think of those guys?
Well,
I mean, one of them comes from Philly, but does that matter as long as he's a good coach?
Well, they've gone back and forth in between division rivals before. I mean, keep in mind, Steve Spagnuolo spent almost a decade in Philadelphia, and then he became the Giants' defensive coordinator, and he wound up taking them to a Super Bowl. So, no, it's been no surprise to see these guys go from one division rival to another. Those two, I just do not know enough of to try and make a comment, so I'd probably have to look them up online to see exactly what kind of history they have.
Gotcha. Now, I wanted to talk about baseball for a moment because it's an interesting thing. Some of the biggest guys like Machado and Bryce Harper haven't been picked up yet.
They already started spring training as of today, and they still don't have jobs. This just goes to show you that these guys are asking for way too much money, and the teams are not budging off their original contract offers. And for the record, the Yankees were the ones that offered the most money to Manny Machado. They offered $220 million, and
for 8 years.
For 8 years, and he rejected it
because they're trying to get a 10-year contract for 30-30. And the thing is, do you think that there's some type of collusion now? Because none of the teams, they're shutting down flat. They're not budging. They don't want people for 10 years anymore. They're willing to pay more and get, we'll pay you more, but you got to do at least 8 years or 7.
It's
top.
Hard to say because 7 and 8 years are more than fair offers for any of these two guys. I mean, it's practically a long-term deal anyway. And let's see, Machado, if I'm not mistaken, already got offered almost $30 million by the Yankees. So when you think about it, they've been given more than their fair share of offers. It's just that I think these guys are probably thinking a little bit too much of themselves to maybe be worthy of a deal like that. So my answer to you is no. I don't think there's any collusion involved.
Well, here's the other thing that they've been talking about as well, which is the luxury tax.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think I'll tell you something, in 2 years when the baseball contract comes up again, there's going to be a big fight there.
Yeah.
Because in the old days, baseball, their union was very strong. They would have jumped on this because how can you have two of the best baseball players in the league not be signed still?
Mm-hmm.
And they want 10 years. Other teams want 8. The team, the owners want 8 and they want 10. Okay, fine. But you'll also have, they'll gather together and say, listen, we're not going to do this. Let's keep this down now. Let's talk amongst ourselves. And I think they said something. I really think the owners have said something and say, look, we got to put a stop to this because you've had some great deals that have lasted 10 years, and you've had some busts that have lasted 10 years. I mean, look at Bobby Bonilla.
Oh, brother. Well, Bobby...
Great play when he was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, although Bobby never got a 10-year deal. The most he ever got was a 5-year deal, but... Bonilla
Winfield was a 10-year deal.
Yep, Dave Winfield got a 10-year contract. A-Rod got 2 10-year contracts, one with the Rangers and one with the Yankees. Albert Pujols is in the final... I think 3 years of his 10-year contract. And when you think about it, at least A-Rod was a little bit more productive with his first 10-year deal when he played for the Rangers, then got traded to the Yankees. But the second 10-year deal that he got, even though he won a championship, his play declined really, really badly in the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years or so. As far as Albert Pujols is concerned, Albert Pujols has played one playoff series. In that time, his production has been good, but have the Angels really gotten their money's worth in getting Albert Pujols for that amount of time and money?
Well, who do they have besides Albert Pujols? That's the problem. Who do they have around him? Because one guy's not going to do it.
Mike Trout.
Okay, that's two guys.
That could be he could be the next guy to probably warrant a 10-year deal. And I'm already hearing some things that maybe he might leave Anaheim and go to closer to his hometown in South Jersey and play for the Phillies, because he was a big Philly fan growing up.
Right now, who has in the National League a strong team right now? If you had to call it, who's got a strong team right now? Do the Mets have a strong team? Do you see Philly having a strong team?
Philly's gotten a lot better. The Mets have gotten a lot better. Atlanta's got some really good young players. Chicago, I think, cannot be counted out. St. Louis has gotten really, really dangerous after making the Paul Goldschmidt deal. I think Milwaukee can't be counted out. The Dodgers are still a force to be reckoned with. San Francisco, I think, cannot be counted out either. They're going to be dangerous. So that's a good 6 or 7 teams that are going to be really, really interesting to watch coming out of the National League this year.
And the American?
The American League, never count out the Red Sox. The Yankees have gotten really, really strong. I wouldn't count out Cleveland. Chicago, even though they're building with a lot of young guys, Chicago's proven that they're willing to do anything that it takes to try and win. Oakland is going to get a little bit better. Houston, I think, is definitely strong. So that's a good 5 teams. Another team that may not, should not be overlooked might be Detroit. Detroit's come up with a couple of really good players.
So you see in each division at least the top 3. Who you think would be a wild card?
At this rate, I would probably say, another team to watch for is Anaheim. Anaheim is...
Really?
Yeah, Anaheim slowly but surely has been under the radar in adding a couple of people. So I would say maybe Anaheim. I worry about their pitching, though, because Shohei Ohtani wound up having a Tommy John surgery, and if he would have come back 100%, he could probably give that pitching staff a real shot in the arm. So I would say Anaheim is going to be really, really surprising this season.
Who's your underdog pick? Anaheim?
Anaheim is one of my underdogs. The Chicago White Sox are another underdog that I would see. Other than that, I would see the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Indians. I think the Athletics can probably challenge the Astros for the Western Division title. So I would say maybe Oakland would take over as the division champion, and maybe, just maybe, the Astros and Yankees would be the 2 wild cards.
Wow. And, what do you think that, about the Mets, getting Jeremy Familia back and...
Oh, I think it makes a lot of sense.
General.
I think it makes a lot of sense because he strengthens their bullpen, and the Mets bullpen has gotten a lot more powerful. In addition to Familia, there's Edwin Diaz, who's now the closer, Robert Gesellman, who's now a lot more comfortable as a bullpen guy, Seth Lugo, who wants to be a starter, but I feel is a little bit better as a bullpen guy. Also, Justin Wilson, who they gave a 2 or 3 year deal to. I think he'll give the Mets a lot of innings coming out of that bullpen. And when you think about it, some of the young guys that they have there, Drew Smith is one of them. Daniel Zamora, maybe, who impressed a little bit in the latter part of last season. So those are the guys that the Mets are going to be going with in their bullpen. I still think that they need a real fifth starter because Jason Vargas really stunk it up for the first 4 months of the year. He needed a late push just to try and get within 2 games of 500. Steven Matz is going to have a really, really strong season if he wants to be considered to be a fourth starter down the road, because last year he was a real disappointment, what with his injuries and also with him not able to be controlling his curveball. Other than that, they're starting 3, DeGrom, Syndergaard, and also Zach Wheeler, who I'm a lot more high on than other people want to give him credit for. I think those 3 are going to give the Mets a real push for a possible playoff berth down the road.
So, and like I said, I think there has to be some type of collusion or something with the owners. I don't blame them to some degree as well, but from a player standpoint, you want security and as much money as you can. But and it's the same with basketball.
Yeah.
If you notice, LeBron, they're saying has a little bit too much power.
I think you could see that in the Sixer game yesterday. He was practically directing traffic all over the court.
Exactly, and even outside the court, because was he colluding AD, or was he just talking? Because a guy like that, they're never going to fine him or suspend him because they need him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, if you were the average Joe, they would come after you already because they already tried to do that. I mean, so far, to my understanding, one guy was the Pens were fined for sitting AD, right?
Yeah.
They were fined for sitting AD. Now, remember the rule of the NBA. All their players got to start because they want to get in the money and people are paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's an investigation on Simmons with the Lakers.
Yeah, the Lakers, I think,
Did
have
Ben
been
Simmons potentially violate league rules?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that's the case, LeBron is the same way.
Who initiated the contact first, though? Was it Ben Simmons or was it the Lakers? Because there's been a lot of connection between those two for quite a few months now.
Well, they're looking into it to see if they violated any. I mean, they're going to talk amongst themselves. Players will always talk amongst themselves. But there's certain things you can say, and there's certain things you can't say. And, again, everybody's going after these guys, but nobody's going after LeBron.
Simply because of what you said, he's got too much power going on in the league.
And I would have loved to have seen him suspend Bird and Jordan because he did a lot of travel and so forth. That man could have hired a plane. All right? Mm-hmm. One of the greatest basketball players of his era. But still, when you're a name, you get away with a lot. And right now, I wanted to ask you about the 76ers.
Yeah, I saw
because the Celtics last year were the strongest team in the league. Mm-hmm. Now the Sixers have become the strongest team in the league.
Well, I don't know. I would think the Milwaukee Bucks would beg to differ with that. I think Milwaukee is the strongest team in the East, but right now, the Warriors are the strongest team in the league. That's a foregone conclusion.
Well, in the Eastern Division, where the Knicks are playing, yeah, I think because remember the Celtics were hot at one point. They were top team. They were really ready to beat the Cavaliers and go to playoffs and beat Golden State. But
now it's Milwaukee. with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Milwaukee and Sixers too. I mean, the Sixers got a great starting five after that trade too.
Yeah, you also have to look at Toronto, which has Kyle Lowry and Danny Green and also Kawhi Leonard. And the Raptors made a couple of deals that really strengthened their roster. So that's another team that cannot be overlooked.
But what scares me is, do they give up a lot to get, let's say, one or two guys? For instance, if we talked about this before, if the Knicks got AD, 25 years old, he's injured prone, but he's one of the best floor players in the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would have to give up Frank Ntilikina, Kevin Knox, Mitchell Robertson. If you get Zion Williams and two draft choices.
If the Pelicans are going to want to talk turkey with the Knicks regarding AD, you know the Pels are going to want that first overall pick. They're not just going to settle for a group of players. Unless
no,
the Knicks
but that's the players that you see. But that's the whole point.
Unless the Knicks can convince them to get a future first-round pick, but they cannot surrender that number one pick this summer. That number one pick is practically some team's livelihood for down the road.
But again, these are the things that are happening, and they're talking about ESPN, WFAN, and even the articles that I've been reading. And I'm going, 25-year-old or 26-year-old AD, one of the best players in the league, but you're giving up Frank Ntilikina, Mitchell Robertson, Kevin Knox, and Zion Williams, if they get him, plus two number ones. And I'm going, that's a hell of a lot. I mean, if you're looking at some money-wise, that's a good. If you're looking at money-wise, they have to match the money. But I can't see them trading 4 or 5. That's like the Carmelo Anthony trade to me.
Yeah.
Where they
I don't
gave
know
up
if those
5,
two deals
6 guys
compare.
to get Carmelo Anthony.
I don't know. I'm not really sure if those two deals compare because, quite frankly, Anthony Davis is twice as good as Carmelo Anthony in my eye.
But the only reason why I compare them is because they gave up a lot for one guy. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. They gave up 5 or 6 guys to get 2 guys, and
not only that, but
it was because of match of salary.
The youngsters that the Knicks have now have so much more potential than what the Knicks gave up 8 or 9 years ago.
Exactly. And they're in a good, I mean, they may be in last place, and they're playing the Cavaliers tonight for the best to see who's the worst.
Oh, brother.
You know, the bottom feeders.
I couldn't even begin to tell you who's worse among those two, the Cavaliers or the Knicks, or the Suns, or the Hawks, or the Bulls. The same Bulls that actually blew out the Nets the other night in Brooklyn.
You know, and that's the thing that scares me. I don't want to trade all them guys. Is it worth to trade all them guys to get AD, and then you're hoping that you get, let's say, for the sake of argument's sake, Kyrie Irving and what's his name from Golden State?
If you mean Kevin Durant.
Yeah, Kevin Durant. That's what they're hoping for, that if they can get AD, that them other 2 guys will go, oh, we can build a dynasty over here.
See,
but is it worth it? And then who would you have on your bench? That's another thing you would have to consider. Who would you have on your bench if you got rid of all those guys?
This is where I have to draw the line in the sand regarding a deal like this. As great as AD is a medical liability. He's been a medical liability for almost 7 years now. Can you really count on a guy who has had a long medical history? Can you really count on a guy who may or may not even take the court That's number one. Number two, the kids on this roster have a lot of really good things ahead of them.
They have potential. They have potential to be really
specifically
good.
Knox and Robinson. And number three,
Dennis Smith
how
Jr.
can you possibly pass up a once-in-a-lifetime talent like Zion Williamson? I mean, the kid is a beast. He has the potential to probably be the next great dominant player in this game starting next season. I just don't see it. I don't see myself making a deal like this if I'm the Knicks, because not only would that make the cupboard bare on the Knicks side, what else would the Pelicans want to give up in addition to Davis? Would they give up secondary players? Because if so, who is on that roster that the Knicks would even want?
Well, do you think that the 76ers gave up a lot? Because they seem that they gave up 2 number 1 draft choices and 2 number 2s to get their guy.
You mean Tobias Harris?
Yes.
Yeah, they also gave up.
It was a 3-team deal, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. And the Sixers also gave up some really good three-point shooting, and that was part of the reason why the Sixers got this far in the first place, is because of three-point shooting. But
do you think it'll get them over the hump now?
Possibly, because Tobias Harris, even though he's not a name kind of player, he's still a really good player.
Right.
Not only that, but the Sixers still have so much in their roster right now, with Joel Embiid, with Ben Simmons, with J.J. Redick. Now they have Tobias Harris. I still think that the Sixers, if they can make a really big run and get to either a second or third place in the Eastern Conference, I think they might be able to go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
And here's something else to consider. When it came to Kristaps Porzingis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that he wanted a little bit of power, even though he was only 1 or 2 years, and he became that arrogant, or did his brother became that arrogant that he wanted more pull in the organization?
His brother did a lot of collateral damage with his brother when it came to pulling out of that exit meeting the year before, and also establishing any kind of contact with the front office. I blame his brother on this one, who also happens to be his agent.
Yeah, and I also blame Kristaps too, because again, you're one of the best players that's your team. They got rid of Carmelo Anthony so that they can make you your team. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing that was kind of funny. Phil Jackson wanted to get rid of him the second year he signed him.
Yeah.
Do you think that would have been okay to get rid of him, just to see what they would have gotten?
Would it have been okay? I'm not really sure, because even in spite of the first couple of years that he had, he did show signs of being a potential franchise player for them. So I don't really think that Jackson was in the right to try and give up on him so easily.
And the other thing about that is, which I find amazing, is that here's a guy that when healthy, he was able to play. He would have gotten more draft picks and so on. And now that he got this injury, look what they got for him. Now, I think that the draft choices that they're getting next year and in 2021 and 2023,
mm-hmm.
For the injury that he had, do you think that was a deal?
Well, I think it was probably the best that they could get the prime target of this deal was probably Dennis Smith Jr. because they saw that they might have not necessarily admitted a mistake or anything, but they probably might have expected too much from Frank Ntilikina. So now that they have Dennis Smith, they could go along with him to be their point guard now. Oh, and Wesley Matthews wound up getting released by the Knicks after playing 2 games with them. He wound up signing with the Pacers. So I think he's going to be a really good pickup for the Pacers, especially now that Victor Oladipo is gone for the rest of the year after tearing up his knee.
How about Enes Kanter? He got picked up too?
Yeah, Enes Kanter wound up getting released. Did he find a team already?
I just know that he scored, but I don't remember the team. But I think he got picked up too. Even Jeremy Lin got picked up.
Oh, wow.
Jeremy Lin got picked up. Wayne Ellington got picked up.
Mm-hmm.
Clippers, Wade Beasley after trade from Lakers.
Yeah.
It's again, there's a lot of dealings going on, but it's small time right now.
Yeah.
And here's a quote: LeBron on East trade, they ain't got to go through me.
Well, he's right.
They do have to go through him. I disagree with that one.
In the finals, they have to go through him in the finals, possibly.
Yeah, but I look at it as, you can't do nothing without going, LeBron, what do you think?
Yeah.
LeBron, what do you think of this coach? It's like you got to kiss LeBron's rear end. Oh, LeBron, please, which coach do you want to have, and we'll get it for you. We want you to be happy. I know a guy can have power, but I think that's too much. But again, we're outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
We're not seeing what's really going out there. Now, give the Nets credit. They've actually improved in a lot of ways, and they're not getting their just due, even though they may be flattening, but they're still building for a future, just like the Knicks, if they're on the same path.
Yeah, well, as far as Enes Kanter is concerned, I've heard that he's already drawn interest from both the Rockets and the Celtics.
And who do you think he would fit in better with?
I don't think it would be the Celtics because he can't defend worth a lick. So my guess would probably be the Rockets. The Rockets are more offensively fluid than defensively fluid.
But wouldn't he give, what's his name, the center for the Celtics, some relief?
He probably could, especially scoring-wise and also offensive rebounding-wise. But other than that, he gives them nothing defensively.
Knicks 22, Cleveland 30, end of the first. The bottom of the barrel still continues.
What else is new? What else is new?
But I like I said, I give the Nets credit because the Knicks have gone through some hardships, but at least they've gone through the playoffs. But the Nets with the worst deal in the world. Do you think that's the one that really killed them?
Are you talking about the Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce trade?
Yeah, because they were trying to win.
It set them back about 5 years. So, yes, it definitely was one of their worst trades, which is saying a lot because the Nets have prided themselves on incompetence from their front office. I mean, remember Charles Shackelford?
Yes.
That's all you need to know.
And Orlando, are they, from the Frank Ntilikina era, which is what, 2017 or 2018?
2017.
2017. Look how many players have gone, really good, and look how they've been okay. Like, for instance, Mikhail Fultz I think that's his name.
Wait, who are you talking about?
Markelle, Markelle. Markelle Fultz. I think.
Oh, you mean Markelle Fultz?
Yeah, him. He was a top choice. He was in that, and the Magic wants to trade him.
Yeah, he wound up getting drafted first overall by the Sixers, and he barely played because he was always hurt.
And Dennis Smith Jr., another guy, got traded.
Mm-hmm.
So most of those guys, have they been traded or have they stuck with the team? Because not too many of them has actually become superstars. They what, out of the 10, 3?
Forget superstars. Some of them are struggling to even stay on the roster.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to come out next year. You know, I mean, do you think this is a good crop of kids coming out, 1 through 10?
I know 1 through 3 is a pretty decent trio that they have right now. I mean, in addition to Williamson, there's R.J. Barrett, his teammate at Duke. Their other teammate, Cam Reddish, who I think is more along the lines of top 15, maybe top 20. There's also Jay Morant, who went from being nobody coming out of high school to being a potential lottery pick coming out of Murray State.
Let me ask you, where did the Brooklyn Nets go right?
Where did the Brooklyn Nets go right? For one, it starts at the top, getting Sean Marks to be the general manager. After that, there was getting Kenny Atkinson to be the head coach. Then after that, Sean Marks completely reconstructed that roster. He wound up getting...
He got rid of Timothy Mozgov and D'Angelo Russell. That was a good trade, getting D'Angelo Russell.
Getting D'Angelo Russell was one huge deal that wound up paying off for them. Now D'Angelo Russell is going to be an injury replacement for the All-Star game. Now that Victor Oladipo was gone, it's going to be Russell that's going to take that spot. There was also
even Kevin Knox is going to be in it for LeVar Ball.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be
you
good.
mean Lonzo Ball?
Alonzo Ball, yeah.
LeVar's his dad.
Yeah, well, he's a big mouth, but he's a good pitch man. But
other than that, there was making the trades for Damari Carroll, Alan Crabb, the draft picks that they had, getting Jared Allen, also Rodion Kurix, who's going to play in the Futures game representing the Nets this coming weekend. Also, Zanan Musa, getting signing Spencer Dinwiddie, who was basically a cast off from the Pistons, and now we're seeing how important he is as a player to the Nets, because ever since he got hurt, the Nets have really been sputtering lately. Just recently, they lost a really disappointing game to the Chicago Bulls, getting blown out at home, and then they wound up getting blown out again by the Magic on the road.
Mm. So all in all, right now, who do you see top 3 and wild card right now for the top 8? Who's in the playoffs right now for the East and the West?
Well, if you were to look at it through the standings in the NBA,
yes,
not going by division, but going by best records right now.
Right.
Milwaukee would be 1, then Toronto, then Philadelphia. Actually, Indiana would take 3rd place. Milwaukee, Toronto, Indiana, Philly, Boston, which would be a really juicy first-round matchup right now. The Nets would actually take 6th place, which means if the playoffs started now, the Nets would play the Pacers, and that's a horrible, horrible matchup for the Pacers. The Pacers are really physical defensively. Even though there's no Victor Oladipo there, they still have enough weapons for the Pacers to probably get to that next round. And then after that, the Charlotte Hornets would take 7th place. And right now, the 8th spot would be tied between Detroit and Miami. So that would be the Eastern Conference.
In the Western?
Out west, it would be Golden State, naturally. Denver, Oklahoma City, Portland, Houston, Utah, then San Antonio, and then the Los Angeles Clippers, who would be half a game ahead of Sacramento for that last spot. And for the record, the Lakers are 10th, and they're 2.5 games behind.
Yeah, what team's Harden on again? Atlanta? No. James Harden is in Houston.
Yep.
They have a good team. Do you think they have a potential to actually win? Because I forgot who was talking about them saying that. Oh, Kobe Bryant was the one that was saying that the way they're playing, they're not gonna win.
Yeah, he says they're not gonna win because of the style of play that James Harden brings to the game. There have been times when James Harden has really commanded the ball so much because they really don't have a secondary option to try and get the ball to. And the Rockets are a really good team when you think about it. And it's not just Harden either. It's Clint Capella, who's a really good defensive center. There's also Nene, who's a good defensive forward. They just made a deal to get Kenneth Faried. Eric Gordon, who's a really good shooter. Gerald Green, who adds some athleticism. Chris Paul, when he's healthy, that's the other problem. Chris Paul has been really, really brittle the majority of the season. And the Rockets also made the deal to get Iman Shumpert, so he's going to try to add some defensive ability and maybe some shooting. And also P.J. Tucker and Austin Rivers, who can spell Chris Paul at the point guard spot.
And do you think, now, here's the question that everybody's asking. Who needs who? Does Golden State Warriors need Durant, or does Durant need Golden State?
The Warriors need Durant by far. He's added so much of a dimension for that team in the last almost 3 years that he's been the guy that's gotten them over the top. You look at what he did against Miami yesterday. All he did was make one big long-range shot after another. The guy has just elevated his game so much that he's become deadly on the court.
And, now let's say that he wasn't on that team. Do you think they still have a formidable team still?
Oh, yeah. I think they would win maybe one title in the last 3 years.
They can win without him.
Yes, they can, and they've
it's
proven
better
it.
with him, but if they had to, if something happens, then they can win without him.
Yeah, most definitely.
What do you think about the Marc Gasol trade?
Marc Gasol going to Toronto from Memphis, that was a big, big deal that the Raptors made to get Gasol. He adds a lot of muscle, a lot of height, and a lot of defensive ability for them in the middle. And he's already proven to be a really good asset for them because he helped them win a big game just recently.
Do you think Bruce Lopez will be somewhere soon?
Who are you talking about?
Lopez, the Chicago Bulls.
You mean Robin Lopez?
Robin Lopez.
That's a good question. Maybe he gets his contract bought out. That would probably be the only way. And I think he can give some toughness and defensive ability to some contender right now.
Oh, I wanted to ask you. There was a kid. Something I haven't seen in a long time. He was drafted in baseball #1 and drafted in football #1.
You're talking about Kyler Murray.
Right, and he decided to go after football instead of baseball, and he has to give back the money for the Oakland Athletics,
Mm-hmm.
and then they lose a draft pick.
Exactly right.
So what do you think of that right now? Do you see him going towards football more, or have you seen enough of him to say?
He's a good quarterback. Let's put it that way. I mean, he's got a strong arm. He has great athletic ability. But the one thing that's really going to kill him if he gets drafted into the NFL, he's really, really short. He's only about 5'11 or 5'10. Some people say that he might be as short as 5'8". And I think he's going to be a really bad matchup problem going against himself when he goes up against opposing defenses down the road. Some people would say that he might be like another Doug Flutie.
Man, he was a good football
Stature-wise.
player for its time, though. He was.
In Canada he was, but he didn't do too much in the NFL. Although he did have a couple of good years in Buffalo.
That's true. At least he gave you something.
Yep.
You know, he gave you something. But what do you think? Do you think that he did the wrong thing, that he went to the wrong path, or you think he should have stuck with baseball?
We're going to have to wait and see, because after seeing what he did for Oklahoma for 2 years, it's hard to argue with the skill set that he has. As far as what he did in baseball, he was a good contact hitter and also had really great quickness on the base paths to steal about 20 or 30 bases a year.
Do you think that the Cavaliers will trade Kevin Love at any given point in time?
If they do, it's going to be really hard because he's got a big contract and a lot of money owed to him. So if he were to get traded somewhere, it would probably have to be over the summer. And it would have to go to a team that's looking for a really, really good shooter.
And Mavs
And a
will
good
buy
rebounder.
out Zach Randolph's contract.
Yeah, they're
after
going to
being dealt to Dallas. But
Yep, they're going to buy him out, and I still think that he could probably do something with a contender elsewhere.
yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Islanders and the Rangers and the Devils for a moment, because right now, who's hot, who's not?
Definitely the team that's hot among the three is the Islanders. Just yesterday, they wound up getting a big, big win, and the guy that's been leading the way for them is Matthew Barzal. He's had an outstanding sophomore season in the league. And also, the kid goalie, Thomas Greiss, has surprised a lot of people with his ability in between the pipes. The Devils definitely are the one team that is not hot right now. They've slumped the entire season. And right now, they're in line to be maybe the fourth worst team in the league. The Rangers are right now the eighth worst team in the league, although they did get a big win against the Maple Leafs yesterday. And it was the Russian goalie, Alexander Georgiev, who had an outstanding game for them yesterday.
So the Islanders, now how do you see them right now playoff-wise? Who's in, who's out right now?
Right now, the Islanders would win the Metropolitan Division, and that would make them, I think, the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference right now, which is huge for them, considering that they can get home ice for at least a couple of rounds in the playoffs. And also, let's see, if they were to start the playoffs in the NHL right now, the Islanders would be in second place. Tampa would be the best team in the Eastern Conference right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Tampa would have the best record in the league. And they have 86 points, which means they would take the President's Trophy for best team in the league. So right now it would be Tampa, the Isles, Toronto, Boston, Washington, Columbus, Montreal, and Pittsburgh. Right now the Islanders would take on the Montreal Canadiens.
And how about in the other divisions, do you know? Because remember last year's the Las Vegas one?
Yep.
How are they doing?
Las Vegas right now is sitting in 4th place out west. They have 66 points. And the team that leads the Western Conference is Calgary. They have 74 points. Then there's Winnipeg, which has 73. San Jose has 73. Then there's Vegas with 66. And then Dallas with 61. And then after that, St. Louis and Minnesota would be tied for the last 2 spots. They have 59 points each.
You know, there's a lot of things going on in sports, whether it's political or non-political, and people that should, because of trades that should be going on, or people that should be signed.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something, if there is a strike, baseball's going to, every team, any sport's going to suffer right now.
Yeah.
They can't afford a strike at all.
No way.
Whether it's baseball, football, basketball, or so on.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking forward to football, such as the XFL and the new league coming up, and also the Women's Football League?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because the one of the new leagues, the Alliance of American Football, just started this past weekend. Get this. The ratings for Saturday night's game, which was San Antonio and San Diego, they scored more ratings than Oklahoma City against Houston in the NBA that night. The Alliance
Are people that hungry for football, or is it
Yes.
the fact that they just want to see what it's looked like? It's a new toy.
They are, that rating that the AAF game wound up drawing this past Saturday night just goes to show you that football is still the dominant sport among sports fans in this country. And I got to admit, the play wasn't that great, but these guys, you can tell, are really, really playing hard. And the fan support was a lot more than I thought there would be. They drew about 30,000 fans for a game in San Antonio.
So what do you think is happening with that type of football and the NFL? What do you think is happening? Is it, like I said, is it too political? Is it what are they doing wrong that they're not bringing the fans in? Because they were losing money before the Kaepernick deal.
Well,
Kaepernick thing. So
well, what's going wrong, first off, is the fact that they still have not addressed in full the issue of head injuries in the game. That's number one. Number two is the fact that Roger Goodell is still the commissioner in that league. Did you hear him get booed so loudly by the fans in Atlanta when he presented the trophy to the Patriots?
yeah.
He's still a public enemy number one among every single football fan right now. That's,
I tell you.
Mm-hmm,
Who do you think is the best commissioner right now going? Which sport?
the best commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's only been on the job for like 2 or 3 years, but I would say Adam Silver's done a really good job running things in the NBA right now.
Well, give it to him then, because, you know, with 2 minutes left, you really got, at least he's doing something, but I'm just trying to figure out where are they going wrong and where are they going right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad. What do you think about the Women's Football League coming up, too?
I'm going to be a little curious to see exactly what kind of style of play they're going to be bringing to the game.
Well, Jamie,
also,
it's 7:59. I must bid you adieu.
Ah, yes, of course. Thank you.
So thank you for having me once again.
Of course.
Thank you for the women that were with me tonight. They kept their mouth shut. But so I will talk to you later, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk again soon, and we'll talk about sports once again.
Yes, sir. And thanks to Kenny Graham for on the other side of the glass, and thanks to you guys at home for watching. So for everyone here, I'm Jamie. Good night, everyone.